Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Today's episode is going to be all about carving out your own path as a musician. So today we're going to leave the guitar on the stand, and we're going to chat about how to set yourself up for success in the future when it comes to learning guitar and music as a whole. Now in the previous videos, we talked about everything from finger exercises and building up dexterity and muscle memory, navigating your way around the fretboard by finding your roots and your octaves. We talked about chromatics and fretboard visualization. We also talked about Gecka, which is my take on the cage system as a whole, which is based on triads and inversions. We talked about intervals, chord structure, chord progressions, pentatonics, modes of the major scale. That's seriously years worth of guitar lessons and music education in less than 2 hours. And it's all for free. So please, come back and revisit some of this stuff when the time is right. It'll be here for you. So after you've checked out my series and other people's videos on these topics, where do you go from here? Well, one of two routes really. I'd suggest either find a teacher that you instantly connect with, or you can learn how to be your own teacher. Yes, this is possible, and I'm about to tell you how to do it right now. You just need your instrument in your ears, find a few resources here and there, and really have a strong will to hold yourself accountable when it comes to practicing and getting better. The more interesting and motivating it is for you, the more you'll be inspired to practice, which will all equate to learning faster and improving on your instrument. I don't make up the rules here, folks. That's just how it is. So before you begin, you want to ask yourself a few questions. So you want to ask yourself, where am I at? Both musically and on guitar. You want to account for both of those things. Then you want to rank yourself on a 1 to 10 spectrum, 1 being beginner, 5 intermediate, and 10 being advanced, and kind of see where you're at and kind of go from there. There's always room for improvement. So the next thing you want to ask yourself is, what do I want to get out of guitar playing and music as a whole, really? And really from now to about a year or more from now. So what do I want to do with this? Do I want to write songs and produce music? Do I want to be a performer? Maybe play in a cover band or start an original band? Do you want to be a hired gun for some random live act or maybe a studio musician? Or do you just want to play by the campfire or maybe in the garage with your friends, Have something to pass the time or a new hobby or skill to learn. Maybe you want to play specific songs like, Stairway to Heaven or Eruption like many people do. It's good to target a handful of artists and be like, yeah, I like what they do and I want to play that. And then learn it and practice it. Slow it way down to the point to where it's boring and then speed it up just little by little. So what do I want to get out of this? What are the most relevant skills for me right now and in the future? This is an incredibly important question to ask yourself. What motivates me to get better at playing guitar and learning music? When I went to college for linguistics, I took a class called Second Language Acquisition. And one thing I learned from reading various peer-reviewed journals from that course is that motivation is a huge part of being a successful language learner, regardless of what the motivation is. The same thing applies to learning a musical instrument, like guitar. You really have to want it, and you have to be motivated to learn new things and push through the pain at first, because it takes a lot of time, mental and physical strain, and perseverance to learn this stuff. The second thing you want to do is create a course syllabus for yourself. You can set time constraints like a 16-week semester, or you could do it in milestones and levels, however you want to do it. You want to know your basics like warm-ups and chromatic scales, and learn songs, any genre, whether it's the chords, the bass line, or melody, focus on just a few at a time that you want to be able to play. You want to learn a little music theory like intervals and chord structure, and you want to learn a couple scales like some pentatonics or some blues. Learn some different techniques. There's a bunch of technique out there. You can learn hybrid picking, fingerstyle, country chicken picking, shred, swing, bebop, slide guitar. You want to learn a little history, whether it's jazz or blues or British invasion or punk and ska or the pop eras by decade, whatever. All right, you want to learn how to play by ear, link together your ears and your fingertips and your mind when you play. It's very important. You can learn solos and licks and maybe transcribe and write out the songs or melodies or whatever. You also want to work on memorization. Music came before notation, just like speech came before the written word. Any dummy can learn how to read this stuff, but internalizing it is completely different and even more useful. So memorize some music. I had teachers that used to get on to me for that, and now I'm going to encourage you to memorize it. You also want to find your source material. If you need a starting point, check out my Rob's Music Codex playlist. Shameless plug. You can honestly treat each video like inspiration for a semester or part of a semester. Most guitar teachers should teach you this stuff at some point in time anyway. I set this series up so that you can jump on at any point in your music journey and learn something new and take it from there. You want to set yourself some lofty yet attainable goals, you know. You can think of the Music Codex series as your own DIY music school. 9 lessons, each one designed to unlock part of the bigger picture. Rewatch it, apply it to your playing. Go out there and see how other guitar teachers online view and frame these concepts. That's really how the real growth happens. You also want to set yourself a routine. Set reminders or use a calendar or a good old-fashioned notebook. Next thing you want to do is you want to find some teachers on YouTube. There are a bunch of them out there. Rick Beato, Tomo Fujita, Frank Vignola, Tim Pierce, Brett Papa, Justin Guitar. Those guys are all different levels. They're all great. So give those guys a shot. You might want to get a book of some sort, geared toward the direction that you want to go on guitar. You also just want to listen to as much music as possible. Find out what you like, what you want to know more about, and study it via active listening, not just turning it on and doing your thing. Listen to what they're doing in there. Listen to the melodies and the riffs and all that stuff going on there, the chords. You also want to understand that you will never learn enough about music. You will never be fully satisfied with where you're at on the instrument. It's always evolving. You'll never hear all the music in your lifetime, and there will always be a new trend that will take over at some point. Also, our tastes change over time. So remember, when you get into it, music is not a competition. It's a community. Get in where you fit in. It's about knowledge and productivity through sound and expressing yourself creatively as a human. If you can think deeply about these things and keep yourself on track and organized, then you can actually teach yourself how to play guitar effectively without anybody telling you directly how to do this stuff. You just need the inspiration, the time, and the effort. There are a lot of self-taught guitarists out there who did some really amazing things, like Jimi Hendrix, Prince, Clapton, Kurt Cobain, Wes Montgomery. So many more. All without a dedicated teacher. And way before YouTube existed. So it's possible, and you can do it. Alright, so now time for a little Rob chat here. So you can move on if you don't want to hear me talk about just a bunch of random stuff anymore. I get it. Okay, now that they're out of here, hi. In the previous videos, I laid out the groundwork for how I would learn music quickly and effectively if I was starting out, whether it's from scratch or coming back to it after a multi-year hiatus like I have been. I set that series up so that anyone from any level can jump right in on a lesson and learn something that they might want to brush up on or know more about. I created a playlist for it, like I mentioned earlier, so if you want to learn a little bit about the things that I think are most important when learning guitar and music, you can check out my entire method there. Those videos were intended to be a starting point for anyone interested in any of those topics that were mentioned earlier. Okay, now this was all really a 2-part goal for me, which was to get my channel up and running, as well as try to reconnect with playing music and finding something music related that gave me a new spark. Now, musicians go through periods of inclines and plateaus when it comes to learning, and that cycle really never ends. It's a very important thing to remember here, friends. You will grow, and you will get stagnant with your skills and your knowledge. We are our own worst critics, and that's a good thing to remember. For many years, I've been contemplating starting a YouTube channel, like many of you, I'm sure. I made my first video about 10 years ago on layering overdrives, and then another video about 6 years ago when I was trying to learn one of my favorite guitar solos by ear from a Steely Dan song called Peg. That was recorded by Jay Graydon, one of their many great studio guitarists. Check him out if you haven't heard of him. But I also had my entire solo album on my channel for the last 8 years. So those videos are all private now. I might set them free in the future, I don't know. I just wanted to make a fresh start with all this here. So since then, I've been conceptualizing how I would actually build my channel. The years passed, I stopped gigging, we all went through a worldwide pandemic, and life just got in the way. John Lennon once said, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans, and he was right. I wrote this series about maybe 5 or 6 scripts called Music Cheat Codes, and it just sat on my laptop for the last 3 years. Then about a month ago, Rick Beato released a video called Cheat Codes or something to that effect, and it woke me up a little bit inside, and I thought, hey, maybe I was on the right track with all this stuff. So I've just been putting off the series just so I could have better gear and video editing and, all that stuff. I remembered back to a phrase that I used to tell my students literally decades ago when they were struggling to conquer a concept or start something new, and that was don't think, do. I realized that I needed to take my own advice, so I just grabbed my iPhone one day and recorded my first episode, did some quick editing, and I've been learning about editing on the fly, and really for my favorite platform, YouTube. My goal here was to make entertaining, music-adjacent content, mostly geared toward guitarists, and to improve on at least one little thing every single episode. You know, whether it's the content itself, preparing for it, the video editing, all that stuff. Bottom line though, I just needed to start and give myself a kick in the pants, and that's what I'm doing here, both by making these videos and overall just getting back into playing music again. You know, it's really been pretty inspirational for me, actually. It's still a work in progress, but I'm committed to getting better and trying to create some fun educational content for you all. Moving forward on this channel, I'm still going to touch on some fundamentals and techniques from time to time, but we're going to be taking a journey into multiple topics related to guitar and music at large down the road, so please stick around. I don't want to spill the beans on anything just yet, but I have some interesting and fun content planned for future episodes, so if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on some of this stuff, and comment down below if you want me to cover some of your favorite music topics, or if you have any questions related to what's been covered so far. Perhaps any episodes you'd like to see on this channel. Either way, I'd love to hear what you have to say. So, thanks for watching this video, and as always, I'll see you next time, friends.